There I was, standing in the middle of Los Angeles International Airport, staring fixedly at the message on my phone. Forgive me, Ashley. I can't go on with this. My wedding dress still held the warmth of the wedding party that had ended just a few hours earlier. The suitcases, all packed for our honeymoon in Mauritius, lay by my side like silent witnesses to the abandonment. Michael had simply disappeared. No explanations, no last words face to face. The boarding line moved around me while I just stood there, frozen. The ring on my finger now felt as heavy as lead. An airline employee approached me, asking if I would board. In my bag, my passport and the tickets to that tropical paradise were waiting on a decision. The flight board was showing the final moments for check-in, and my life had just been turned upside down. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like to get access to more stories like this. The pain of humiliation turned into anger when I discovered that all our joint accounts were empty. Sitting on the floor of the apartment we shared, I went through every document, every bank statement. The money I had saved over the years had evaporated along with it. Between the pages of an old cookbook, I found a corporate credit card that Michael had never mentioned. A shell company, I discovered after making a few phone calls. Just another lie added to the collection that was starting to take shape. I spent the night rummaging through our shared closet. His drawers held only a few pieces of clothing left behind, as if he wanted to maintain appearances until the very last moment. At the bottom of one of them, there was a crumpled plane ticket to Mauritius, dated 3 days after ours. That's when I decided I wasn't going to be just another abandoned bride. I was Ashley Thompson, a cryptography specialist, and if Michael thought he could just vanish, he was completely mistaken. Our honeymoon tickets were still valid, and now I had a new destination for the trip, to find out who the man I married really was. I packed the bare minimum, including my laptop and work equipment. If he left that ticket behind, it wasn't by accident. It had to be a clue. While organizing my things, I noticed that the wedding dress, still hanging on its hanger, had something different. A little metallic sparkle on the hem caught my eye, but I decided to check it out later. My priority was to get to Mauritius before he did. The heat of Mauritius hit me like a slap in the face. Resort Sunset Bay was everything we had dreamed of for our honeymoon, but now every romantic detail felt like a tasteless joke. Ryan, the local manager, greeted me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Something in his demeanor told me he knew more than he let on. At check-in, I noticed him typing something discreetly on his phone. Minutes later, an elegant woman walked across the lobby. She introduced herself as Sarah, a tourism consultant, and offered to show me around the island. Her excessive interest in my situation set off alarm bells. That night, while browsing online, I found something disturbing. Michael Morrison didn't exist before 3 years ago. His oldest photos on social media looked carefully staged. As a digital security expert, I should have noticed this sooner. What kind of bride doesn't investigate her own groom? An anonymous email arrived. Look up Nathan Barrett in 2019. The search led me to old news about an operation against international trafficking. The face in the blurry photos was impossibly familiar. My husband, but with another name, another past. Sarah reappeared the next day, coincidentally, bumping into me on the beach. In what seemed like casual chit-chat, she let slip mentions of Connor Matthews, a local businessman, the same name I'd found in a hidden folder on Michael's computer months before the wedding. It all started to click. The pattern of his business trips, always to places with a history of international police operations, the late-night phone calls, the moments when he seemed distant, as if he were playing a part. While having dinner alone at the hotel restaurant, I noticed a man watching me. He wore an impeccable suit and was talking with a group of businessmen. When our eyes met, he raised his glass in my direction, with a smile that sent shivers down my spine. On his table, there was a discreet nameplate, Connor Matthews. I went back to my room feeling the weight of his gaze on my back. That night, I found a note under my door. Not everything is as it seems. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Café Blue Harbor. Café Blue Harbor was located in a busy marina. Connor was already there when I arrived, sitting at a discreet table at the back. His friendly smile didn't match his calculating eyes. "I'm sorry about your husband," he began. Michael, or should I say Nathan, was always impulsive. Connor told a story different from the one I was starting to picture. According to him, Michael was a crooked agent, diverting money from operations and betraying the trust of his superiors. He talked about other women, other identities, other scams. He mentioned someone named Brooke, who had also been abandoned after a sham marriage. While he spoke, Sarah suddenly appeared at a nearby table. Our eyes met for a second, and she made an almost imperceptible gesture of shaking her head. In that moment, I knew Connor was lying. Back at the hotel, I met Madison, Michael's supposed sister, waiting for me. Her face was tense. "Don't believe a word Connor says," she whispered, pretending to embrace me. "Michael's been working undercover for years to dismantle his organization. You weren't supposed to be involved, but now it's too late." Madison told me about a woman named Rachel, the daughter of a powerful Russian criminal, who was secretly helping Michael. The wedding, she explained, had to look real for everyone, including you. The security of the operation depended on it. I barely had time to process this information when I noticed 2 of Connor's men following us in the hotel. Sarah appeared out of nowhere, pulling both of us into a service room. "They know Madison came looking for you," she whispered. "We need to get you out of here now." We moved through the service corridors of the hotel like shadows. Sarah clearly knew every exit and every security camera. She wasn't just a tourism consultant. Her training was obvious now. In a car waiting in the back of the hotel, we ran into Rachel. Gorgeous, elegant, with eyes that had seen too much. "Welcome to the real side of the story," she said as she sped away from the hotel. "Now I'm going to tell you why your wedding dress is so special." In a safe apartment on the outskirts of the city, Rachel revealed the truth about my wedding dress. The little metallic sparkles I noticed on the hem weren't just decoration. They were a micro-engraved code containing crucial information about Connor's operations. Michael had chosen that specific dress, making sure I would unwittingly carry the proof needed to bring down his entire organization. "The idea was brilliant," Rachel explained, examining the fabric under a special light. "Connor would never suspect a wedding dress, but Michael never counted on you coming here to look for it. The plan was to retrieve the dress later, once everything was over." Using my cryptography skills, I began decoding the information. They were detailed records of illegal transactions, names of crooked politicians, locations of arms shipments. Connor's criminal empire exposed in tiny, sparkling dots on my wedding dress. Rachel told me how she met Michael. She had grown up in the underworld, the daughter of Viktor Petrov, one of Connor's main partners. But after discovering that Connor ordered her mother's murder, she decided to turn against him. Michael was assigned to contact her, and together, they had been building a solid case for the past 2 years. "Your wedding wasn't meant to happen," Sarah interjected. "But Michael truly fell in love. Connor started to get suspicious precisely because your relationship seemed too genuine. He was used to Michael's tricks," Madison added. "When Connor threatened to use you as a bargaining chip, Michael had to disappear. It was the only way to protect you. He's trying to finish it before Connor figures out what's really going on." A notification on Rachel's phone interrupted the conversation. A coded message from Michael. "Connor is planning a major transaction in 2 days at the port. It would be the perfect chance to catch him, but also the most dangerous moment. We need your help, Ashley," Rachel said, handing me a laptop. "Michael hid part of the codes in a system that only you, with your specific expertise, can access. He studied your work even before he met you, knowing that one day he might need your skills. While I worked on the codes, everything began to fall into place. Michael's business trips, always to strategic locations, the mysterious phone calls, the way he was interested in my work in cryptography. Everything had been meticulously planned. After hours of decoding complex sequences, I found what we were looking for. Confirmation that Connor planned to eliminate several of his partners during the port transaction, including Rachel's father. He was covering his tracks, preparing to vanish with billions. "Now I understand why Michael chose you," Rachel said, impressed by how quickly I cracked the codes. "It wasn't just because of your heart." Sarah began outlining a plan. We would use the information to set a trap. Connor would never suspect that an abandoned bride could be his downfall. I would be the piece he never expected on the board. "Michael is nearby," Madison assured. "He would never really leave you here alone. We just have to make sure you're ready for what's coming." I looked at my wedding dress, now spread out on the table, revealing its secrets under the special light. Once a symbol of abandonment, it had become a powerful weapon, and I was ready to use it. With Rachel by my side, I spent the next 2 days setting up the perfect trap. Every detail had to be calculated. Connor wasn't an amateur, and one single mistake could cost all our lives. Using my knowledge of security systems, I created a fake vulnerability in the port's protocols that would be irresistible to him. Sarah provided us with state-of-the-art surveillance equipment, hidden in everyday accessories I would wear. My role was to act as if I still believed Connor's version that Michael was a corrupt agent. I would present myself as a betrayed woman seeking revenge, willing to help him capture my husband. Connor has a weakness, Rachel explained while adjusting my hidden microphone. He loves feeling smarter than everyone. He's going to love the idea of using the abandoned wife against his own agent. Madison mapped out all the escape routes from the port, memorizing every alley and warehouse. Michael will be positioned at Warehouse 7, but you can't give any sign that you know this, she instructed. Connor has eyes everywhere. We rehearsed every possible scenario. How would I react if Michael appeared? What to do if Connor got suspicious? Where would the backup teams be? Rachel insisted I learn some basic self-defense moves. Just in case, she said, though her eyes said it was more than that. On the eve of the operation, I received an anonymous message that I immediately recognized as being from Michael. Trust your instincts. You're stronger than you think. Those words, the first from him since the abandonment at the airport, gave me the courage I needed. Sarah arrived with the final update. The transaction was going down at 10 p.m., involving representatives from 5 different criminal organizations. Connor planned an ambush, eliminating his competition and disappearing with all the money. Our mission was to make sure he got caught red-handed, with enough evidence to bring down the entire network. Keep your phone close at all times, Rachel advised. We developed an app that looks like a normal game, but it's actually a panic button. One tap and all teams will be alerted. I spent the afternoon at the hotel spa, keeping up appearances. Connor had to believe I was focused solely on my own revenge, oblivious to the bigger plan. I chose my outfit for the night carefully, elegant but practical, with room for the hidden equipment. Remember, Madison said in our final meeting, you're no longer just the abandoned wife. You're a key part of this operation. Michael always knew your potential, even when you didn't see it. Rachel handed me a small USB drive. Here's all the decoded material from your dress, plus the evidence we've gathered over the last 2 years. Keep it with you. If anything goes wrong, hand it over to the person who says, the sunset in Seychelles is unforgettable. As the sun began to set, I positioned myself at the hotel bar, knowing that Connor wouldn't be far behind. Sarah and Madison strategically spread out throughout the area, invisible, but present. Rachel was already on her way to the port, preparing the final stage of the plan. Ordering a drink, I looked at my reflection in the bar mirror. The woman staring back at me was no longer the naive bride from the airport. In just a few days, I had transformed into someone I didn't even recognize. Stronger, more determined, ready for what was coming. The night at the port was strangely clear, with a full moon illuminating the stacked containers. Connor led me through the metal maze, his hand on my arm in a gesture that seemed courteous, but was really a silent warning. 2 of his guards followed us discreetly. Ashley, darling, you have no idea how valuable your help will be tonight, he said as we walked. Michael really made a mistake underestimating you. I kept my face neutral, thinking about how much he himself was underestimating me at that moment. The main warehouse was lit up. Through the tall windows, I saw movement, armed men positioning themselves, briefcases being exchanged. Rachel was inside, alongside her father, both perfectly playing their parts. No one there, except for our little group, knew that everything was about to fall apart. Connor checked his watch. Almost time. Remember what we agreed? When Michael shows up, you'll be our perfect distraction. I nodded, feeling the weight of the USB drive hidden in my shoe. My hands trembled slightly, but not from fear, from anticipation. A sudden movement caught my eye. A shadow shifted among the containers. Sarah was positioning herself. Somewhere above us, Madison was monitoring everything through the cameras we'd installed. Every person had their role. Every move had been calculated. Connor's partners began to arrive. First, a group of Eastern Europeans, then some Asian businessmen. Finally, a black car brought the last of the participants. Connor smiled. That cold smile I knew all too well. It's showtime, he whispered, guiding me into the warehouse. The atmosphere was tense, and everyone present was wary of each other. Rachel shot me a quick glance. Everything was set. Then I heard it. Metallic footsteps on the emergency staircase. Connor heard them too, his body stiffening beside me. Out of the shadows emerged Michael, his gun pointed directly at Connor. "It's over," he said simply. Connor laughed, a laugh that sent chills down my spine. Michael, so predictable. You even brought your adorable wife along to watch your end." He drew his own gun, but I was already ready. In a quick move, I activated the app on my phone. The warehouse lights began to flash, causing chaos. Sarah and her team emerged from their hiding spots, guns drawn. Rachel and her father quickly stepped away from the line of fire. "Did you really think I was still that naive bride?" I asked Connor, strategically backing away. His eyes widened when he realized he had fallen into our trap. "All of you!" he shouted at his partners. "This is a police operation. Open fire!" Chaos erupted. Gunshots began echoing throughout the warehouse. Michael moved quickly toward me, shielding me behind a stack of boxes. Taking advantage of the confusion, Connor tried to escape through the back. "Stay here," Michael ordered, his eyes meeting mine for the first time in days. There was so much to say, but it wasn't the moment. He ran after Connor, disappearing into the darkness. Sarah appeared at my side. "Come on, we need to get to the marina before they do. That's where this will end." We ran through the night as sirens began to sound in the distance. The real confrontation was yet to come. The marina was quiet when we got there, with only the sound of waves lapping against the anchored boats. Sarah guided me to a private yacht where Rachel was already waiting for us. The shots from the warehouse still rang in my ears. "Connor has a boat ready to make his getaway," explained Rachel as she checked her gun. "It's his only escape route." No sooner had she finished speaking than we heard hurried footsteps on the pier. Connor appeared running, closely followed by Michael. Shots were exchanged, ricocheting off the metal structures. I instinctively ducked, but kept my eyes fixed on the scene. Connor was cornered between us and Michael, who was methodically advancing toward him. "It's over, Connor," Michael shouted. "We have all the evidence. The code in the dress, your transactions, everything." Connor quickly glanced my way, finally realizing how he had been duped. "You really fell for her, didn't you?" Connor bitterly laughed, still holding his gun. "That was your mistake, Michael. Feelings make people weak." He aimed in my direction, but Rachel was quicker, landing a shot in his shoulder. Connor staggered but did not fall. In a desperate move, he fired at Michael, who dove to the side. The shot just nicked his arm. Taking advantage of the distraction, Connor ran for his boat. "Michael!" I shouted, running after him while Sarah and Rachel chased Connor. Michael got to his feet, pressing his injured arm. "I'm fine," he murmured, his eyes never leaving the direction Connor had taken. A new shootout broke out on Connor's boat. I saw Sarah get hit in the leg, falling onto the deck. Rachel continued exchanging shots with Connor, who was using one of his men as a shield. Michael pulled me behind a container. "We have to stop him from starting the boat," he said as he reloaded his gun. I nodded, already understanding his plan. While everyone focused on the shootout, I slipped behind the boats toward the marina's electrical panel. Years of working with security systems were finally about to pay off. I quickly identified the main circuits and manipulated them, causing a short circuit that turned off all the lights at the location. In the sudden darkness, I heard Connor curse. The sound of disoriented footsteps on the boat's deck was followed by a dull thud. Rachel had managed to take him down. When the emergency lights came on, the scene was clear. Connor was subdued, his hands cuffed by Rachel. Sarah, even though injured, kept her aim on his remaining men. Michael walked toward us, a discreet smile on his lips. "You've always been so much more than just a cryptography specialist," he said, stopping by my side. "Forgive me for doubting you could handle all this." Sirens began to sound in the distance. The police had finally arrived. Rachel was already making the necessary calls to formally arrest him. Sarah was getting first aid from her team. Connor, defeated and sitting on the marina floor, looked at us with a mix of hatred and disbelief. "How?" he muttered. "How did you know?" "You made the same mistake you accused Michael of making," I replied. "You underestimated the power of true feelings." Michael took my hand, and for the first time since the airport, I felt that everything was finally falling into place. At the hospital, while the doctor treated Michael's wound, we finally had our first honest conversation. He told me everything, from how he was assigned to investigate Connor 3 years ago, to the moment he realized he was truly in love with me. "The plan was never to marry me," he explained, holding my hand. "But every moment we spent together was real. When Connor found out about us, he threatened to use you as a target. Leaving you at the airport was the hardest decision I ever had to make. Sarah was the first to be discharged, her leg wound turning out to be more superficial than it seemed. Before leaving, she hugged me tightly. "You've got a future in this field," she joked, though her eyes said she was serious. Rachel showed up every day, bringing updates about the case. Connor was cooperating with the authorities, providing information about other criminal organizations in exchange for a reduced sentence. His empire was crumbling fast. Madison arranged for us to be transferred to a more private hospital as soon as Michael was cleared to travel. "You two need time together," she said, winking at me. "No secret agents, no conspiracies, just the two of you." During our recovery, Michael and I rebuilt our story this time, without secrets. Every lie was replaced with the truth. Every doubtful moment was explained. It was like meeting a new person, yet still recognizing all the love in her that made me say yes at the altar. "Do you know what's funny?" he said one evening, as we watched the sunset from the hospital window. "I spent years training to keep my cover, to never let feelings get in the way. And then you came along and changed all the rules." We laughed together, not anymore at the irony of the situation, but at the certainty that sometimes the best plans are the ones that go wrong in just the right way. The ring on my finger no longer felt heavy. Now it was just a symbol of an extraordinary story we'd have to tell. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like to get access to more stories like this. 6 months later, we're in Seychelles, finally enjoying our real honeymoon. The sun sets on the horizon as we walk along the beach, leaving our footprints in the sand. There's no longer any need to look over your shoulder or to decipher hidden codes. Rachel surprised us with an unexpected invitation. After inheriting her father's legitimate business, she's turning everything into an international security consulting firm. "I need a cryptography expert," she said, smiling at me during dinner, "and a former agent who knows all the tricks in the market." Michael and I exchanged looks, already knowing the answer. It's funny how life comes full circle. The thing that started as a lie is now becoming a partnership based on complete transparency. Our new life is just beginning. Madison jokes that we're now a couple of retired spies, although I argue that I was never really a spy. Sarah drops by every now and then, always with new stories and adrenaline to share. The wedding dress, the one that carried so many secrets, is kept as a memento of our unusual story. Sometimes when I look at it, I can't help but smile thinking about how a piece of cloth completely changed the course of our lives. "Ready for our next adventure?" Michael asks as we watch the sun dip into the Indian Ocean. This time, I know exactly where we're headed. And more importantly, we're going together. Rachel is waiting for us in London next week. A new chapter is about to begin. A chapter where we can use our skills for good, with no disguises or false identities. Just us, being who we really are. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like to get access to more stories like this.